Yeah, okay. All right, my babies, we're doing this again. Look at this. Yalla, 4.2. What we're doing right now is conducting elicitation. So, what's the purpose of this? The purpose of conducting elicitation is to draw out, explore, and identify information relevant to the change. Amazing. Simple, straight to the point. There are three common types of elicitation: collaborative, research, and experiments. We talked about them earlier when they were telling us about the chapter. So collaborative involves direct interaction with stakeholders and relies on their experience, expertise, and judgment. Research involves systematically discovering and studying information from materials or sources that are not directly known by stakeholders involved in the change. Stakeholders might still participate in the research. Research can include data analysis or historical data to identify trends. Remember, you're the person that's in charge, so you always get to do this or this or this or this or figure something out. Experiments involve identifying information that could not be known without some sort of controlled test. It's the basis of chemistry. Like a controlled test is basically always you have to everything is stable except for one thing. You change it in order to see the difference it makes and to see how you understand how like the experiment comes out. Some information cannot be drawn from people or documents because it's unknown. Experiments can help discover this kind of information. Experiments include observational studies, proof of concepts, and prototypes. Who knows what you're going to be working with? One or more elicitation techniques can be used to produce the desired outcome within the scope of the elicitation. Stakeholders may collaborate in elicitation by participating and interacting during the elicitation activity and researching, studying, and providing feedback on documents, systems, models, and interfaces. So I think with everything we do, we have to consider the stakeholder, whether it's their feelings, their contribution, their requirements, their needs, or if anything, just their presence, right? Like sometimes we just want them to be there in order for you to be more comfortable doing what you're doing. I don't know. But anyways, what are the inputs for this? The inputs for this are the elicitation activity plan, naturally, because the first plan that we did, the elicitation activity plan, was basically the outline, the baseline, which we're going to be using in order to kind of like move forward in this. So it includes the planned elicitation activities and the techniques, activity logistics, for example, date, time, location, resources. We talked about this before, and scope of the elicitation activity and available resources or background information. So basically 4.1, all of 4.1, everything we did earlier is basically what we actually would include here. Nice. So this is the chart. We have, while we're doing the elicitation, they're conducting the elicitation based on the plan that we have. We basically have our tools, our business analysis approaches, our existing business analysis information, our guidelines, stakeholder engagement approach is a guideline, and supporting materials. Depending, supporting materials could be tools or guidelines as well. The output is the unconfirmed elicitation results. Why unconfirmed? Because you have to sit and discuss them with actual stakeholders. And whatever we do here is basically what needs confirmation. So it goes to 4.3, which is confirming elicitation results. I think a part of me is starting to look at the steps in terms of approach in a more like going through this book right now. We're at chapter 4 only, but it seems to be kind of like looking more systematic in my mind. Whoever actually watched this or considered watching this, please let me know if that's of any value to you guys, or if something like this is happening with you. I'd definitely be interested. Guide elicitation activity, understanding the proposed representations of business analysis information, which were defined in planning, naturally. Helps ensure that elicitation activities are focused on producing an intended information and desired level of detail. So basically, this is for us to double check. This applies for each instance of an elicitation activity throughout a change and may vary based on the activity itself. So the the elicitation activity guide, or the guide for elicitation activity is, I feel there's a difference between guide elicitation activity and elicitation activity guide. So I'm going to just read it this way and not assume anything. But ultimately, like we have to check with this as much as we can. In order to help guide and facilitate towards the expected outcomes, business analysts consider the elicitation activity goals and agenda, and we basically go back to them. Scope of the change, what forms of output the activity will generate, what other representations the activity results will support, how the output integrates into what is already known, who provides the information, who will use the information, and how the information will be used. The who, what, where, why. While most of these are considered when planning for the elicitation activity, see prepared for elicitation on page 56. They are also all important while performing the elicitation activity in order to keep it on track and achieve its goal. For example, stakeholders might have discussions that are out of scope for the activity or change. The business analyst needs to recognize that in the moment to determine the next step, either acknowledge it and continue or guide the conversation differently. The business analyst also uses information to determine when there has been sufficient elicitation in order to stop the activity. That's something we never discussed. But this is something beautiful. Fuck off, man. Delete. This is something beautiful. Why do I say this? It's because so far, all we're looking at is basically how we prepare for things. But we never considered how we might say stop for this shit, right? How we ourselves kind of like, what the fuck am I doing? How we ourselves basically kind of say, hey, we're done with this crap. We don't want to do anything anymore like this. We have enough information. Anyways, and then after that, there's capturing the elicitation outcomes. Conducting elicitation is frequently iterative and takes place in series of sessions in parallel or in sequence, right? So we don't know if the sessions are happening together or happening one after the other. According to the scope of the elicitation, naturally, everything has to be checked whether it's actually like part of the scope. Elicitation activities unplanned outcomes are captured and integrated into the appropriate planned outcomes. Amazing. Capturing the elicitation outcomes helps to ensure that the information produced during the elicitation activities is recorded for later reference and use. Nice. So whatever we do is always documented. Our job is literally just a documentation of everything we think about. Think about that. What are the guidelines and tools? The business analysis approach, because it influences how elicitation activities perform, and identifies the types of outputs that will be needed based on the approach. An existing business analysis information, whatever it is, may guide the questions posed during the elicitation and the approach used to draw out information from various stakeholders. Stakeholder engagement approach provides collaboration and communication approaches that might be effective during the elicitation. And supporting materials includes any materials that prepare for both the business analyst and participant before elicitation. So basically, be on your shit, man. Techniques, benchmarking and market analysis. Oof, that's beautiful. Used as a source of business analysis information by comparing a specific process system or product or service or structure with some external baseline. That's practically benchmarking, such as similar organizations or baseline provided by the industry association, right? Like the part of our research might actually be like, these are the limits that we cannot cross, or these are the things that we cannot not do. Market analysis is used to determine what customers want and what competitors provide, depending on your project, naturally. Brainstorming, used to generate many ideas from a group of stakeholders in a short period and organize and prioritize those ideas. Business rules analysis is to identify the rules that govern the decisions in an organization and that define, constrain, or enable organizational operations. Remember, every organization technically should have its own rule book. This is how we operate, this is how we work, these are our values, these are our principles. Collaborative games. This is fun because used to develop better understanding of problems and stimulate creative solutions. Concept modeling is used to identify key terms and ideas of importance and define the relationships between them. Like when you're creating a concept model, you're kind of putting the concepts and seeing how they interact with each other. Data mining, we discussed this earlier, used to identify within a previous video, used to identify relevant information and patterns. Data modeling, used to understand entity relationships during elicitation. Document analysis used to review existing systems, contracts, businesses, procedures, and policies and standards and regulations. If this is going over your head, I think this is perfectly fine, man, because generally, like, these are options for us to choose, which we will have to research until we have the experience to not actually require like researching them directly, right? But I feel like with every single like organization or with every single project, you approach them differently. So document analysis as well as used to review existing systems, contracts, businesses, procedures, policies, standards, and regulations. Focus groups used to identify and understand ideas and attitudes from a group. Interface analysis used to understand. And focus groups are amazing because you literally just like put the group together, and there's a systematic way for you to approach how you ask questions without actually destroying the data that you're getting from them. Super fun. Interface analysis used to understand the interaction, the characteristics that people, the interaction between two entities, such as two systems, two organizations, and two people or roles. Interviews used to ask questions of stakeholders to uncover needs, identify problems, and discover opportunities. Mind mapping used to generate many ideas from a group of stakeholders in a short period to organize and prioritize those ideas. Observation used to gain insight about how work is currently done, possibly in different locations and in different circumstances, right? Like, sometimes you just have to kind of like look and see what's going on. Process analysis is used to understand current processes and to identify opportunities or improve for improvement in those processes. Process modeling used to elicit processes with stakeholders during elicitation activities. Prototyping used to elicit and validate stakeholders' needs through an iterative process that creates a model of requirements or designs. Survey or questionnaire used to elicit business analysis information, including information about customers, products, work practices, and attitudes from a group of people in a structured way and in a relatively short period of time. Questionnaires are my favorite simply because, all right, so why are questionnaires my favorite? It's because, well, specifically if they're like true or false questions or something like this, they kind of narrow down, well, true or false maybe are biased, but ultimately what they do is they kind of like give you they give you raw numbers, I think. They give you a whole lot of just kind of like, they pinpoint a whole lot of things that could be on your mind if you put them on a questionnaire and you send them to a lot of people that are involved. And they help a lot because sometimes stakeholders are like a lot. They're like 500 people, for example. And all of them, any one of them could have a valid opinion, but you don't know. So practically, a questionnaire actually meets the most of them, I guess. And it kind of like averages out what are the things that they're the pain points or something, depending on what you're asking them. And workshops. Workshops are used to elicit business analysis information, including information about customer products, work practices, attitudes. Form a group of people in a collaborative, facilitated way. What? Used to elicit business analysis information. All right. Including information about customers, about products, about work practices, about attitudes, about a group of people in a collaborative, and also here is basically like, I don't know if it's grammar. So here it's just telling us that we form a group of people in a collaborative and in a facilitated way. Who are the stakeholders? The stakeholders here are customers because they provide valuable business analysis information during elicitation. The main subject matter expert has expertise in some aspects. End user, the end user of the existing and future solutions who would participate in elicitation. Implementation subject matter expert. Whatever we're eliciting designs and implements a solution and provides specialist expertise and can participate in elicitation by asking clarifying questions and offering alternatives. Sponsor authorizes and ensures the stakeholders necessary to participate in the elicitation are involved. Any stakeholders could have relevant knowledge or experience to participate in the elicitation activities. Here, why did they add this? Because an implementation subject matter actually comes to us and helps us sort the information that we're getting. And as well, because some things that we're approaching are not really applicable within the realm of how they see the world or how the people we're working with see the world. That's why they hired us. So we also have to kind of be taking into consideration a lot of like active things that will become active and how they might affect what the project that we're working on. Okay, what are the outputs? Elicitation results, the unconfirmed results, captured information in a format that is specific to elicitation activity. And welcome, voila, we finished basically how to get elicitation, how to elicit basically information, how to conduct elicitation. Yay!